In this box, 7840 HS. This is the high performance CPU. This is the Minisforum machine. There are many Minisforum machines, but this one is special. Special in a lot of ways. Many minis. To the tune of Weeny Weedy Weeky. It's a game I saw I conquered in Latin. Which is what Minisforum has done. Now this is available in 16, 32, 64 gigabytes of memory configurations with up to 2 terabytes of storage. My configuration here, 32 gigabytes of memory and 1 terabyte of storage. Now the 7840 HS also includes the 780M iGPU. It's decent. Not as good as a discrete GPU, but pretty darn good. Boy, they don't call it an elite mini for nothing. It's pretty brick-like. I like to see that. Dual 2.5 gig LAN, HDMI DisplayPort, and OCuLink. Oh, they've gotten my letters. Also inside the box is a warning that, hey, the first time you turn this on, it's gonna take a long time to boot. That's expected. Don't remove the CPU cooler because liquid metal. Some nice sticker things. Now remember, the CPU in this, it's basically designed for laptops, but this is gonna let it run at full tilt madness. 120 watts. They did get my letters. This is the M.2 OCuLink adapter. So this goes in your M.2 slot, and then you have an OCuLink port at the back. 4 lanes, this is faster than Thunderbolt. More than twice as fast as Thunderbolt in a lot of scenarios. I know what you're thinking, Thunderbolt, that's actually 4 PCIe lanes, right? Well, the DMA controller on Thunderbolt 4 is crap, so you're limited to about 2.8 gigabytes per second for mass storage devices, 8 gigabytes per second on OCuLink. You also got an HDMI cable bundled right in there. A VESA bracket, and a funky little stand thing. I like the funky little stand thing. Taking it apart, you gotta be really careful because you've got a fan cable and an RGB cable and some other stuff here. I find it's easiest to just take the fan cable apart, and this gets you into where you need to be. Now it's got a really nice heat sink for your M.2. This is the best Minisforum design yet. And you might be thinking, wow, if we're coming in from the top and there's magnets and there's a lighting effect on the magnet, what if you had hats for these? You could use your M.2 with your M.2 cheat code and then 3D print accessories to make it go really tall. I mean, heck, you could get like 3 mechanical hard drives on top of here and just set 1, 2, 3, and then have a really amazing NAS platform with the SATA controller being an adapter on an M.2. Of course, you don't want to interfere with the fan, so whenever you 3D print, you would need a fan, but this opens up a whole world of possibilities for future expansion. Now, after running this for a few minutes on my test bench, I can tell you, you're going to want to reboot into the BIOS and set performance mode. Well, okay, maybe not. Performance mode and the mode that it comes in by default, it seems to revolve around thermals and noise. I can definitely hear it while I'm running my benchmarks now when it's in performance mode, but performance mode is faster. So I like it. I want to run in performance mode. If you don't want the machine to be audible at all, basically all of the time, not all of the time, but 90% of the time in 90% of scenarios, leave it on the out-of-the-box defaults. This is also DDR5 5600. There's no kind of overclock or anything like that. It has an interesting BIOS. I had to change the language on mine to English, no big deal. It does have a lot of the options that we're expecting, like AMD CBS. You can set options in there. You can also set different thermal parameters, but mostly all the fun, interesting options are all locked away. You can disable PCIe devices, PCIe 1, which is your M.2 1, PCIe 2, which is your M.2 slot number 2, which in our case is an OCuLink port, but you could use a second NVMe or whatever you want. And then the Wi-Fi adapter that's underneath the primary M.2. So you could reconfigure it, you could do the M.2 cheat code thing, you could add some kind of a hat, but you could also just use the OCuLink port to have some sort of an external enclosure or an external GPU, which I will be testing. Yes, an external GPU. What are we going to run on this? Oh, 7600M, but you're going to have to stay tuned for that because it's late, it's not here yet, but hopefully it'll be here soon. The specific NICs that are bundled with this system, it's a killer NIC from Intel for the wireless, and for our 2.5 gigabit NICs, of which we have 2, there are the Realtek variety of 2.5 gigabit. But dual 2.5 gigabit on a platform like this, love it. We've got a lot of connectivity. HDMI, USB-C, yes, that is USB 4. You can do Thunderbolt tunneling. It's basically plug and play. OCuLink, which is Gen 4 Thunderbolt, basically. our dual 2.5 gig NICs, and of course our 19 volt 120 watt power brick input. At the front we have two Type A and another USB 4 port. It's nice to see dual USB 4 on this. We've also got the 4-pole TRRS headphone microphone combo connector and a physical reset button in case something goes catastrophically wrong and you have to reset the BIOS configuration. Otherwise the system breathes from the sides. There's no ventilation or anything like that on the bottom, which does make it ideal for mounting behind a monitor as well. I also hope somebody comes up with a wireless charging accessory for the top. It might have to source power from somewhere else, but gosh darn it, wouldn't it be cool if you could, you know, put a Qi charger or something like that on top of this and then it just charges and does everything from there. In this current configuration, you wouldn't want to do that because of interference with the Wi-Fi antennas, but I can dream, can't I? Now the bundled SSD, it's Kingston. It's a Kingston OEM, 1 terabyte, and our Crystal Dismark performance number is not actually that bad, about 4.7 gigabytes per second read and about 3.8 gigabytes per second write. This is the C drive, the operating system drive, so this is within spitting distance of Kingston's rated 5 gigabytes per second for this model, and I think we would see 5 gigabytes per second from this model under ideal, optimum conditions. So we got a pretty fun setup here with the level 1 KVM. This is an actual Minisforum PC, not the model that I'm reviewing, but this is another one. It's connected only with a USB-C cable, but it does, you know, display USB power. So this is one of the combo KVMs, and it looks like, look at that. I plugged in the USB and there's my USB drive, but wait. I can change the input, and now this other machine is active. This machine. And I'm able to move the mouse and change the cursor and do everything else. It's the magic of KVM, but Minisforum has their own keyboard, which we're gonna see if it's level 1 text KVM compatible. This is the MKB-I83. KLH, KL red switches. Okay, I can deal with that. So this is a mechanical keyboard that supports a wired connection, wireless via Bluetooth, or wireless via its own 2.4 gigahertz dongle. Ooh, would you look at that? We have KVM keyboard shortcut. Keyboard shortcut control. At the end of the day, we're working with 8 cores and 16 threads, which is a lot for a mini PC. And of course the iGPU, which is also no slouch. Our Geekbench scores reflect that. Over 2,500 single thread. Really, you could probably get 2,700 if you juice it just a little bit, but at the defaults that we have here, performance mode, I should say, we're running at a pretty reasonable speed and a pretty reasonable noise level. And this kind of score for single and multi-core score, this is a very, very competent machine. With upgradable RAM and storage, this is a great second PC for your parents, siblings. You know, just need a machine you can get on the internet, answer email, and do multitasking. This is a pretty good machine. Basically everything except gaming. And you can actually do light gaming, but I would still prefer a DGPU machine. Minisforum has other machines like the HX99, which include a built-in separate GPU. That's a really good choice. Our AIDA64 scores here are pretty good. I would like to see a little bit better memory latency, which is really just a matter of tuning and setting up the right memory profiles out of the box, but that's going to be a little bit more work for Minisforum. Over the life of the Minisforum machines, it would be nice to see regular BIOS and driver updates. Out of the box, there doesn't seem to be any way to control the RGB in the Minisforum machine, for example, and that's owing to needing a driver or a Windows interface. All in all, this is a very, very fast platform thanks to the AMD 7000 series mobile CPU. It's quiet, it's upgradable, it's got dual 2.5 gig NICs, so for home lab uses, if you want to do the dual Thunderbolt cluster, 3 of these, very, very nice. 2.5 gig Realtek NICs as opposed to Intel. In terms of running on VMware ESXi, I haven't tried it. You might have to use a community patch or something like that to get it running, but hey, that's gonna be a video for another day. I'm Wendell, this is Level 1, I'm signing out. You can find me in the Level 1 forums.